Okay, we're back with some more Q&A. We've got a question from Anonymous. It seems like the benefits outweigh most of the concerns. What would be your suggestions about where we need to be most cautious?
That's a good question.
It's a great question. And I agree that a lot of the benefits do outweigh the concerns, and that was very much a key finding for us. For me, I think the biggest takeaway is the rate of change of the tech is probably where you will end up spending quite a bit of your time, because you will create a set of prompts that work today. Tomorrow, there'll be an update that you have no control over, and the prompts that worked yesterday will no longer work tomorrow. So I think that's probably, for me, one of the areas of caution.
It does become something, it's a maintenance piece, right? Like it's no longer, you can't stop using those prompts that you made back when ChatGPT first came out, that they're just not efficient or like not going to give you the results that you want. To be cautious, though, I think the underlying thing is how confident AI can be when they're writing assessments. So don't lose your nerve. You're the human. You're in charge, right? AIs are made to sound confident, even overconfident, confidently wrong. So be cautious, even if it's you think it's your friend, it is not your friend.
Just challenging the AI when it's saying something, just challenge it and check, is this correct? Get them to tell you, get them to verify it for you so that you
Justify.
have that. Justify that. I think that could be a good way of just helping them.
Test,
Gosh,
check.
I
can
go
hear
bang,
echoes.
bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
I can hear echoes of my philosophy teacher already. Justify your arguments.
That's great. So, question from Amy. Were the assessments generated only single units? Do you think AI could be used to consider clustering units, and where questions can overlap to multiple units in a large qual?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we didn't just create single units, so the micro-credential was done on purpose because it was both the micro-credential exclusive content as well as a unit standard. So we wanted to it's kind of a cluster of a unit standard content and micro-credential content, so we could understand what AI could do in that space. AI is also quite good at mapping. So in other work I've done, it's if you are giving it multiple unit standards or other standards, it can be quite good at kind of identifying what maps together, what's quite similar, what does connect. So you can kind of have that cluster of things to make it simpler. Have you found the same?
Yeah, you're onto something, Amy. That's some things that I've done a little bit of research around. I popped 80 unit standards of a qual to see, what are the overlaps, and there's a lot of overlaps with the unit standards, and I think that's what I'm feeling from this question. So we can be a lot smarter. Why write a separate question when the exact same outcome's already covered it in another unit standard?
And one of the key principles is that we shouldn't be over-assessing someone who's already demonstrated
100%.
evidence and competency. So.
Amy, if you're doing a little bit of research yourself as well, I even noticed that you can find holes in your curriculum and as well by asking the AI, by putting all your calls in there as well. So these other things you can experiment once you've got the data in there. Have a look.
So we've had a question from Katrina. Has there been any research on baseline and progression assessment in literacy and numeracy testing?
There's not been much research in, I suppose, any of these spaces with regards to AI and what it can do in this space. I've not seen any other research out there where they kind of have that type of baseline standards or progression assessment. It's one where I think there's a lot of value, and I think within some of the prompts we have in ours, there are analyses around language and numeracy to make sure that it is at a correct level for that learner. But I've not really seen much other research around how that's being developed. I think we're kind of, especially in that kind of baseline standard, we seem to be the first, or at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, okay, cool.
That's not to say that there aren't adaptive tests already out there. The LNAT, the Literacy and Numeracy Adult Assessment Tool, already does this. But I don't know the underlying technology. It's been around for much longer than generative AI has been, so I'm not sure what they use behind the scenes. But I think it would be a good use case scenario to consider the AI solution for this.
Yeah, exactly. Another tip is that if a system's already been around for a while, you can actually just be prompting Claude to help see what happens, right? And that's exactly how I'll experiment on this. So I'll have a baseline. I'll go, okay, let's see how this affects what the outputs are. Check, test. And that's just the process, right? And give it a go yourself.
Very cool. If we're using AI to write assessments and using AI to complete assessments, what, in your opinion, is the critical amount of human in the loop?
I mean, I think it kind of depends a bit on which area it's in, but I think we're using AI to write assessments, but we're having humans to help, I suppose, say what is good. So AI can't, I suppose, necessarily write good assessments unless it knows what is good. We're helping it in terms of that standard, whatever the standard is that we're wanting them to write towards. And then I think it's that element of quality assurance. So they might complete the assessments, but we also have to be the ones to prompt them into understanding, is this actually accurate? How does this work properly? And making sure that that type of review process is there quite consistently because of how quickly AI changes. Like AI can write and complete an assessment today, but the same prompt, as Carl said earlier, could be completely different tomorrow or even in a few hours. So it needs human in the loop quite consistently to make sure that what is being produced is accurate based off of where the prompts are at the moment.
Just a heads up, the nice stories I was telling you guys happened over a period of time of lots of errors, and we had to discover where was the best place to put humans. So when you're starting off, there's going to be way more human interaction, but as you define your processes and get better at it, you can start even getting the AI to do mini checks before it gets to the humans, so they've got less work, or even only highlight the ones that need to have a look at. So at the start, it's going to be more work, but as you refine your processes, AI can actually reduce the amount of time it has to be with a human.
Anything to add, Eve? Oh, sorry.
I'd be reluctant to sort of prescribe a critical amount, but it is going to reduce over time, as Carl says, because you are going to learn things as well as the AI. So I think there's both of those aspects to consider there. And at different parts of your process at the moment, there's different requirements. You don't have quality assurance at every stage in the human process. So there's going to be points in time where you require it rather than everything at the same time.
Yeah.
I did just want to add, because I don't think we've mentioned it before, is most of this is brand new areas, and a lot of the terms that we have in the report and that are in the definitions are terms that Carl has created because there is not currently a word that is being used to describe what Carl is creating or understanding or doing. So there's these brand new terms that Carl has coined, which, maybe in a few years' time those will change or evolve, but like this is that new that, Carl's creating new language, which is really exciting and kind of shows how new all this is.
It's also why there's a glossary.
And that's the nature of research, right? You're going to find it something that you don't have a word for. So you make that up.
Oh, that's great. Okay, are there any, this question's come from Macy. Are there any plans to explore AI as a moderator? Which is a great question.
Yeah.
We have already. We haven't touched on it yet, but in the report, we have a rationale report. So what Carl developed was getting the AI to develop the assessment and then create a rationale report to say, why is this correct, or show me how this does map to the standard or how it works. So we have tried to get that, I suppose, internal moderation done by getting the AI to design it, write it, and then tell us why it's correct, which is a really exciting way to kind of justify.
Yeah, and it was part of my go, no-go process that I built into it, where it tests itself. And it was just another way to double check that it's passing the check and it is mapping back to all the outcomes. So then I go, okay, now I can pass it on. So that's an example of how you can speed up the human in the loop steps.
Yeah. I think this is a great question. Thank you for asking it. I'd also like to expand it that there's opportunity to consider the role that AI could play in standard setting, in broader quality assurance, in RPL. Our whole back-end processes of vocational education can all be enhanced and improved using AI.
Great insights again for the incoming ISBs.
Absolutely.
This is a question from Ed. How realistic can AI-generated answers be for its questions, where the questions include trade jargon? Trade jargon can be parochial and not accessible on the web. This suggests that there is no one correct answer.
I mean, the assessor guidance is part of that in terms of within the assessor guidance, AI can add in like accept X answer, but also then accept other answers that can be created. You can also, I suppose, add in prompts. I don't know if we already have, where you can kind of say, think about it from, say, we're looking at doing this around a particular location. So to understand what AI has already in that space, the personas, I imagine, can also be.
Yeah, some of our persona examples that we tested as well as location, where the business is, so that you can make it location specific around the questions, what to expect, whether you're on the beach, on a coast. Trade jargon is an interesting one. It will mean when you're developing your assessment, if there is some specific jargon that the AI may not know about, then you'll need to include that. And we have a variable system that's in the prompts that could easily hold what the industry jargon that you want to put in there. Eve talked about when we first kind of came up with this idea around personalisation. It was actually to do with trade jargon in Australia, where one thing's called one thing in one state and it's different in a million different other states. So we had to adjust the assessment for each state, which took ages. Well, this is exactly the kind of the same thing, but you just need to know what their jargon is, and we can adapt the assessments to it. But surprisingly good. The AI is very good with jargon.
Great. And a question from Martin. Did you also use AI to develop the training material, lesson plans, etc., that supported the learners to prepare for the AI assessments? If not, what are your thoughts on using AI for this purpose?
We didn't. We focused on the assessment just because I think a lot of the research that's been going on in AI in education has already been on that type of learning space. We've not really found any other research out there that's focused on AI and assessment. So I wanted to focus on that piece. Have you done much in that space outside of it?
So there's another story when Go No Go baking happened. One came out and it started writing the workbook for the. Right. So I can see where you're coming from, where you want the learning material, so you're making the assessment. It's just out of scope. It would have made our scope too wide, and we really wanted to live in the assessment space. But I see exactly where you're coming from. The key thing is, if you know what you need out of the assessment, you know what you need out of the learning content, right? So it kind of all interconnects. I can see it going the other way.
There's a lot of work has been done in this space of using AI to create lesson plans and training material. What I talked about in the full session around that delivery aspect, this is where a lot of that focus has taken place. As the portfolio manager for the project, most of my time was spent telling Carl to not do these things and bringing him back to the core of the project, which was assessment specifically, because otherwise, as I mentioned, we could have gone so far that we would never have ended.
And speaking of ending, our final question for today is where to from here for the project, given Concove is winding down? Any thoughts, team?
We have plenty of thoughts.
Lots of ideas for how it could progress.
So much opportunity for next steps. So not least what we mentioned, which is the trialing with real live learner data, plugging it into an LMS with a provider, and taking this to the next level there. There's also all of the opportunities outside of assessment, so the learning content and the training material, doing the same thing for moderation or for quality assurance, for standard setting, for RPL. We're just looking for opportunities to be able to test this out in different fields and in broader forums, but looking at that end-to-end process of vet creation, delivery, assessment, and quality assurance.
So here's a question from me then for the incoming ISVs, and in thinking about the systems and processes that they're all working with, where should they start?
With what we've started. I mean, because that's the start of a 10, they don't need to spend a lot of money beginning, say, their ethical framework or everything else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we've done it for them. Like you take what we've already created, use that as a structure to then, I suppose, identify which AI is best used right now, so they can use the checklist that Carl created. They can utilize those prompts where they can start with, and then ideally bring us around to kind of help support in terms of that creation of the kind of ethical framework, updating that, hoping for some consistency with policies is probably the main one for me. Yeah. But there's a lot of scope, I think, to take what
consistency with policy seems like a very sensible place to start.
It'd be nice.
We need in New Zealand a place to host a lot of these large language models. So we've used international models. So our data's going offshore. So a lot of this personalization, deep personalization for individuals, it needs to happen in New Zealand, right? It's got to be our data. Until we have the infrastructure to host models in New Zealand, well, even smaller ones, we're not going to have that opportunity, and that's a huge loss. That's making me, it hurts me inside to think that we're generalizing still. We're still doing a little, even though we're trying our best, it's still a little cookie cutter, right? Like it's still like, it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it. It's just thinking that we are so close to it. We've actually almost unlocked it all, and they just need to be able to get access to these models within New Zealand with data sovereignty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the ISPs, if they can produce consistency across each other, that would be a huge bonus, not just for AI, but for vocational education in general, and even human usage. But again, coming back to what I said earlier on about being considered and deliberate around what it is that you want to use AI for, and start with that, and then build from there. But start with AI in mind rather than building a process around humans and then trying to plug in AI. It's a whole new way of thinking that requires a reconsideration with AI at the forefront rather than as an add-on.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Well, again, thanks very much for your time today. We do really, really appreciate it. And the webinar will live on forever after Concove's time, so we do appreciate that. And ngā nui to you all. Thank you for coming along today, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
See ya.